Welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. The 3 keys to your success is just moments away. Here's your host, Brian Kelly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. I am so excited tonight. We have an amazing special guest coming all the way from Toronto, Canada. And I'd like to add, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. I've got to get to know this gentleman for at least 10 minutes before coming on the show. And I have to tell you, this is an amazing young man. You're going to love listening to him and the value he's going to bring. He's got a phenomenal book that we're going to talk about that will definitely help those that might be stuck, who are trying to punch through that proverbial wall to get to the other side, to get to the success, the life they want and deserve. I cannot wait to bring him on. And we will very, very soon, I promise. But real quick, the Mind Body Business Show. What is that all about? Well, in my now 55 years on this planet, that's right, 55 as of this coming Saturday, I had began focusing on only successful people in the last decade or so. Really analyzing and finding out what makes them successful. What do they have in common? And what I discovered is they had patterns that were similar to each other, and they seemed to come in the form of 3 different areas. And you might have guessed what those 3 are by now. That's right, mind, body, and business. And mind, what is that? It's a powerful mindset, unstoppable, flexible, a very empowering mindset, consistently. I get it, we're all humans, and sometimes even the successful who have a great positive mindset have bad days, and they react accordingly. The cool thing with successful people that I noticed is they are quicker at righting the ship and getting their mind back into a productive state. And then body. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's about taking care of your body with nutrition by moving. In other words, that 4-letter word called exercise. I know it's not 4-letter, but a lot of people treat it that way. And the thing is, a lot of people misunderstand, guys especially, that you do not need to look like a bodybuilder to be a successful person at exercise. And with women, you don't need to be a supermodel. You don't need to look like that. It's not about looks. It's about feel. How do you feel? You know, when your body, when you're treating it right, when you're giving it the right fuel, when you're exercising, when you do both, then you're feeling fantastic, and then you are progressing farther to your goal faster. And again, these are traits of highly successful people. And then there's business. Oh boy, that's a multifaceted arena. There's things like marketing, sales, team building, leadership, everything that goes with it. Writing books, as our guest will attest to, who's coming on very soon, how that is so beneficial and helpful in the marketing arena. And the thing is successful people have mastered all 3 of these areas. Now, I get it, with business especially, it's so multifaceted. If you were to master one person, all of those are areas and more on your own, then you probably would have burnt yourself out. And so one of those keys is leadership, so that you can delegate out those skill sets you may not have perfected yet to others who have, and bring them in as part of your team. And so mind and body, those are both on you. Business is you and your delegated team. But when you've mastered all three of them, then I like to say you're operating at what I call a peak level of performance. Hence the name of my company, Reach Your Peak. And another beautiful thing about successful people is they tend to be very avid readers. And to really go over that succinctly, we're going to shift over into a little segment I appropriately call bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Born to read. Bookmarks. Ready, steady, read. Bookmarks. Brought to you by reachyourpeaklibrary.com.
All right, there it is. You see on the side of the screen if you're watching this live or a recording. If you're listening, you can imagine reachyourpeaklibrary.com on the screen. And by the way, in either case, the best thing for you to do right now is to take out a pen and a pad of paper and take notes. And, Israel, my guest, and I will be giving out resources as we go along. URLs, website addresses, things for you to go and take a look at. My recommendation for you is to not click on another tab and go to those websites as we're talking on the show. The reason I say this is because, just from experience, I know that when I'm attending an event, whether in person or virtual like you are now, that the magic happens in the room. Now, if you were to go off and look at things on another tab while we're talking, you might miss that one golden nugget that Israel has for you that could change your life. And I'm not kidding here. So stay with us. Concentrate on the show just for this 1 hour that could literally change your life. And just take notes throughout, especially when Israel comes on. You're going to get writer's cramp. I can't wait. ReachYourPeakLibrary.com. What is that? It's a website I put together with you in mind. And I am not kidding when I say that. It is for you, the budding entrepreneur, the successful entrepreneur. No matter where you are in your walk of entrepreneurship, I put this list together for you in case you wanted or needed a resource to go to quickly locate books that were vetted by someone else who has achieved success. That way you're not guessing. You're not wasting time looking for. We're going to add one to this list because we're going to talk about it here in just a moment, because our wonderful guest, Israel, is going to tell us about his amazing new book. I can't wait. And we'll add that to the list after I've read it. I'm going to vet it. And every one of these has been personally vetted by me. So not every book I've ever read goes onto this list, so that you can go in with some assurance that it might have a positive impact on you. I can't promise it. We're all different, but at least the odds are much greater if you go through here. And so one of the greatest attributes of successful people is that they are all voracious readers. And it's not just reading any books, it's about reading the right books. Now, does that mean you can never go read a novel? No. I mean, we need to have our downtime. That's okay. But if the prominent amount of time that you spend reading is on the books that will propel you farther forward in business and personal life, then you will start to see the results. Sound cool? Speaking of results, we are going to bring on Mr. Results himself, Israel Ellis. It is time to bring this young man on. I cannot wait for you to see this gentleman. Here we go.
It's time for the Guest Expert Spotlight. Savvy, skillful, professional, adept, trained, big league, qualified.
And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Israel Ellis. How are you doing, my friend?
Great. Hello, LA. How are you?
And so appreciate you coming all the way down here from Toronto to be on the show. I'm kidding. He's in Toronto. This is the beauty of this. I'm in LA, in the Los Angeles area. Israel Ellis, amazing, amazing man. We're going to go deep into what makes this man so successful. We're going to talk about his new book. I cannot wait for that. Before I intro you on real quick, Israel, if you don't mind, I want to quickly remind all of our live viewers that if they stay on to the very end, they will get the opportunity to win a 5-night stay, wait for it, at a 5-star luxury resort in Mexico. And it's all brought to us by our good friends at powertexting.com. Sponsored show. We give away one trip every single show. I kid you not. It's an amazing blessing that I have to be able to forward on to you. So stay to the end and we'll show you how you can win. All the way to the end, all right? And take notes. Get out those notepads because the man, the myth, the legend is on right now. And that's him, not me. Israel Ellis. You see his name pop up right there. So let's real quick bring him on. Israel is an entrepreneur with experience growing businesses in the entertainment, logistics, real estate, technology, and software industries. I'm exhausted already. This is amazing. His recently released book, Moving Through Walls. I love that title. I just have to say that. I love that title. Moving Through Walls recounts his journey from an abusive upbringing, yes, there it is, to success in business and life, and incorporates the lessons and strategies he developed along the way. Through his writing and speaking, Israel has given people the world over a practical guide of how to become the greatest versions of themselves. I love that. I love that. With that, Israel, now officially, formally, welcome to the show, my friend. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. I'm getting goosebumps already. This happens every show, I guess. I keep saying it every show, but I get emotional, man. I'm excited. This is fun. Now, in order to become a successful person, shoot, in order to finish writing a book, let's start with that. My God, you have to have a lot of great mental traits to get through that mind. You need to, and it can be daunting, and it can take time for many people, me included, to get through it and finish the race. And there's always this, for lack of a better word, I don't know where it's coming from, but wall that comes up in front of us that keeps us from getting past that finish line. And so for you, Israel, like when you get up in the morning and, your day's about to start and you start to come into consciousness, you're waking up and you're realizing, okay, the day's in front of me. When it comes to maintaining that positive, empowered mindset, that successful mindset, what do you do on a regular basis to sustain that? You're starting the day out when you're probably at your worst. I am. When I wake up, I'm like, I'm just waking up. And now you're starting to ramp up. And then that mindset starts to kick in, the drive. What is that for you, and how do you go about bringing that into your life every day?
Actually, Brian, you're probably at your best when you are just coming in between in that in-between state of consciousness and of unconsciousness and consciousness. And I want you to try this next time that you are awakening. I want you to just not rush it. Just relax for a moment and try to acknowledge what is happening in that sort of bridge between that unconscious place and that conscious place, because that is perhaps your most creative place to be. And so what I try to do is I try to give myself a few moments to try to recount what I learned when I slept. And I think about the day ahead of me. And I do a bit of a prayer of gratefulness, recounting things I'm grateful for. And I try to get up with a smile. Even if I don't feel like smiling, I force a smile, and I breathe, and I sit up, and I think, God, how grateful I am to be here today, and to have this lovely woman next to me, and to really just everything that I have. And so I start my day that way. So that's really, really part of it. What else do I do? I go and usually I get up pretty early. I'm up about 5:30 in the morning, and I will do about an hour of writing. Try to do that first thing in the morning. Hydrate myself. I do have a coffee. I will catch up on some news and some email. And the best part of my morning is when my wife and I take our dog Bowie for a nice walk. We go walking for about a half hour, and we take in really God's gift of nature and beauty. And I go through my morning process just like any other healthy person should. And then I head into my office. I don't, necessarily run into the office for 9 o'clock. It really depends on what I'm doing. I recently got a Peloton. I love those. Sorry to have to give that a little bit of a boost on your show, but a fantastic machine. And so if I can get a half-hour workout in or something like that, that's great, just to get those endorphins going and to sort of think about what I'm going to do. But one of the things I do is when I'm on my way into the office is I review what I want to achieve. I take a look at my goals. Mentally, I think about my goals. And I also will announce what my wants and what my needs are for the day. So I will actually say, a prayer of gratefulness, and I will say out loud to the universe, this is what's going on today. This is what I need to achieve. Please help me achieve it. Please direct me in the right path so that I can achieve it. Hopefully this will come in that we're working on, or that deal, or, this conversation or that relationship will produce and guide me, because I don't know all the answers and I'm learning every day. So I open myself up. I open myself up to a willingness to act on what is coming my way from the universe. And so I really try to put myself into that positive state. I'm a big list man. Usually at the end of my day, In the evening, I'll make a whole bunch of lists of what I have to do. By the way, great way to get a good night's sleep is to get all that stuff out of your mind and to, make a list. I will then kind of go through my list. Wonderful feeling of what I call acceleration, to be able to cross something off your list, physically cross it off your list. And that in itself builds a momentum, a positive momentum, a strength for you to get to the next thing that you have to do. Throughout the day, it's business, whatever's coming at me. Sometimes I feel like I'm in triage mode without trying to get too reactive about things. And I try to split my day up into sort of buffer tasks that I have to do, and also strategic focusing on action items. We will gather with the team, we'll figure it out. Try to keep my meetings short. I got to be honest, I'm not great with that. Like to tell stories, like to talk, but I've got some great people around me who know that they've only got so many hours in a day, and they've got these big expectations that I place on them, and so they actually keep my meetings short.
I love that last part, the meetings. Goodness, I can go on for hours about that, but we won't, because this is not a meeting. Wow. So true to form, my expectations of you were high, and you've already met them, because within the first, 10, 15 minutes of the show, you've already provided a massive amount of value. And I don't know if people recognize that and realize it. So I wanted to point out a few things that you mentioned. That one of the things that stuck out the most to me, Israel, is you are just like all of the other successful people I've interviewed, in that you have a routine. And when you have a routine, that to me spells that that person also has discipline. And when you have discipline, then you're setting yourself up for success in so many ways. And the thing about the routine is, to each person, it's unique to them. So it doesn't mean you have to do exactly what Israel does or what Brian does or anyone else. It's just find that routine that works for you, so you can have fun with it, move it around a little bit until you have that thing dialed in, and then stick to it as much as you can, because that's what successful people do. I love how you talked about, between the moment of unconscious and conscious, that's like an important time. So true. Like I'm a certified NLP practitioner that involves hypnosis, and that's the state of trance, the transient state. And that's where you get most of your inputs and learnings when you're going through hypnosis. That's a very vital time. So that's phenomenal that you mentioned that. Prayer of gratefulness. Oh my gosh. To start out, and you didn't say it just in the beginning, but you said it, that you did it again it sounded like when you got back to the office. Now you're praying that you get the right guidance to get these tasks done, and that you do them properly and with integrity. And that's the attitude of gratitude. And that's another great trait I've noticed of many successful entrepreneurs. Goodness sakes, routine. I've got so many. Okay, for everybody watching, I'm writing notes. See all aside? So I hope you are too. And if you're not, what's your excuse? Get with it. I like to have fun too. Let's see. Prayer twice. Yep. Open up. Oh, I love that part where you say, I just open myself up to try to allow things in. Another word for that I've seen recently and often is surrender. To kind of surrender yourself, to be open to being guided by what is, you just let go, kind of let go. Just actually reading a book about that recently. So that was phenomenal. And then lists. Goodness. I mean, so many nuggets here. Good grief. Lists. Amazing. Plan out your day. And a lot of people, they either plan it in the morning or in the evening. Pick what works for you. Some will do it both. I actually interviewed one that does it both. I like to do it in the morning when it's about to hit. That way if I write it down the night before, this is me. If I write it down the night before, I find myself thinking about it and keeping me awake. And so if I wait and release and take care of that in the morning, then I have that day to either get them done or they go on the list for the next day, depending on the priority. So I totally align with everything you're saying, is the reason I brought all that up, Israel. Appreciate that. Oh, and then you said the best part of your day, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact words you said, is taking the dog out for a walk with your wife. And that's another thing I love about you, is your love for your wife. I have a similar passion for my wife. I mean, my gosh, she is my why. She's everything to me. She's the reason I get up in the morning. She's the reason I put in the hours and have fun doing what I'm doing with people like you. So many things in common. At the same time, I love the fact that you are the one saying all the things you do on a regular basis, because look at the result, ladies and gentlemen. He's had multiple businesses. You heard in the very beginning, more businesses than most people live that long to go through one. So very experienced. You can tell he's an intelligent man. I'm very excited to get through the rest of this interview so we can learn more about you. I talked about the importance of reading at the onset. Obviously, you've written a book, so I can only assume, but it's not a good thing to do, that you are also an avid reader. Would you call yourself an avid reader? It kind of looks like it behind you there, but I just wanted to find out for sure.
I would say I try to go through 2 or 3 books a month. My wife and I, we have our own little book club, so we talk about books. Last book that I read, or recently, read a couple of books. Most profound book I read recently was The Choice by Dr. Eva Eger, if I pronounce that right. What a wonderful woman. I think that if you have a chance, anyone out there should Google her and Google that book. We're all confronted with forks in the road. And in her case, she's a Holocaust survivor. And she talks about the choices her parents made and the choices that she made, and throughout her life, the choices that they make. And I think that, there's lots there in the story, but the main thing is that there are what I call forks in the road, and I've had a lot of forks in my road. I grew up in very difficult circumstances as a young boy, and when you live through a personal injustice, it's very natural to, I guess, allow that personal injustice as an excuse for, shall we say, taking one direction or another. And so, when I was growing up, I always had this goal of where I wanted to be, and I knew it. It was a vision, and I talk about vision in my chapter on future. And the idea is that in business or anything that I do, I've got this vision of what I want to do. Well, when I was growing up, I was very poor, and I had zero confidence in myself, and there was a lot of things that were going on, but I had a vision of where I wanted to be. That vision was strong enough for me to make the right choices that I needed to make when I came to those forks in the road. So that's the last book I've read, but I've read so many books, and I will tell you that I'm really actually quite taken with the fact that books mean so much to you, and it's unfortunate today to get our kids to read books and for people out there to get to read books. There's so much frame per second stimulation going on that people just they just don't know what to do. There's so much ADD going, and really to sit down and have your favorite chair and get a nice, I know this is going to sound really corny, but getting a nice piping hot, I'm going to say that again, piping hot, cup of tea, some cinnamon chai perhaps, and to sit by the window and to read a book is such a calming thing. And really, it really calms me down. It slows me, it stops me in this sort of place where I can really allow my imagination to populate with thoughts and images that conjure up through the poetry of the words that I'm reading that come before me. And I got to tell you, I didn't get past grade 10. I have ended up eventually going to university and later on, but I dropped out of school at a very young age because I had no guidance, I had no mentorship, and I never read. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I started to read, and I discovered this unbelievable enlightenment of knowledge that came with the books I started to read, and I became this voracious reader. One of the things is that someone taught me how to speed read at one point, which was really an incredible asset and a great skill set that you should learn how to do. I started reading all sorts of books, and I actually took a real interest in psychotherapeutic type of books, literature. Started reading with classical Freud, and I talk about I talk about Burglar and Erich Fromm and those guys. And it was like sort of a discovery of a whole new world when I started to read. And so I actually got to tell you, people come to my house, and I've got a whole downstairs in our base. Here we have basements, by the way, in Toronto. I know they're in California; it's a no-no. But here we actually have, large walk-ins, and I've got a whole library downstairs. People come over and they want to borrow a book, and I'm like, you want that book? You got to go. That's why Amazon exists. You go, you buy your own book. No one takes my books. I keep every single book that I read because it strengthens me. And I learned so much through the books. And in fact, in my book, Moving Through Walls, I talk about a lot of the books that I've read that have shaped the way I think.
Oh, that's a great segue. That was not planned, by the way, and I appreciate you saying that. I would love to hear about your book, Moving Through Walls. First, before we do that, again, I'm getting writer's cramp because you are an amazing man. I'm loving the fact that, look, you're not just saying you're reading books, but you're also giving people options on how to successfully get back into reading books by saying, look, go nuzzle up next to the window and get a piping hot cup of chai tea. That's amazing because you're not just saying do it, but you're saying here's a solution for you just in case. See, that's a sign of success. The mindset right there is just always there to serve and help others. Whether he even did that on purpose or not, it's just ingrained in him because of how he's trained himself and his mind. Another great book, by the way, I just finished the second time through, is The Biology of Belief. It's an amazing book, and the author escapes me. I just had finished it again yesterday. So we could go on forever about books, and I'm sure you have more than I, especially in the mindset arena. And that I'm looking forward to talking to you more about that. But I want to talk about your book. Talk about, so there are many people that want to write a book. Every one of us, every single one of us, not just Israel and myself, every single one of you watching and listening, you have a powerful message. You have a book in you if you haven't written it yet. And it really doesn't matter how long you've been on this earth, because your life experience, no matter how long you've been on this earth, is your life experience. It's unique to you. And there's always parts of your life experience that others can learn from. It happens every single time. Writing a book, you might be looking for the topic, the right topic. Well, forget about that. Every topic has been written about, so just pick one. And because it's yours and unique to you, then it will be successful because it's coming from your space, from your life, just like Israel has done. But I wanted to talk to you, Israel, about the process because it can be very daunting. You're sitting down and so many things going through your head. It's like, well, I want to write this. I know I've got a great message, but then there's that thing in the back of your head. Well, how am I going to get this out to the masses? Where do I have to go to publish? How do I get it out? Is it going to make money? Do I just use it as a calling card? All these things go through your head as you're writing it, and sometimes can sabotage finishing the book. I'm curious how the process went for you, and then let's dig in a little deeper about the book itself and what you wrote about.
Sure. So when I decided one day that I didn't want to disappear into the dust of eternity, and I thought I've got all this knowledge and wisdom and the things and experience I've experienced in life, I'd really like to articulate it somehow and kind of leave the breadcrumbs for others. And so I decided on the eve of turning 50 that I would do that in the form of a book. And I wanted to also communicate to my kids. I've got great, amazing kids, thank God. And they're all unique and different in their own right. And I wanted to let them know where I came from and how I got there. And they didn't know the whole story, and they didn't know everything that happened to me. And I wanted to kind of articulate it in some succinct messages that I could go ahead and I could communicate. But you asked me my process. I have to tell you that writing a book is definitely, that's what I get every time I've written a book. Go up to someone, hi, I'm an author, Israel Ellis, I've written Moving Through Walls, and what do I hear 90% of the, maybe 80% of the time is, I want to write a book, I've got a book. And I'm like, well, why don't you write the book? And a lot of people get lost at the starting. It's really hard to get to the first page. I hear it all. It's really hard to get out of the starting gate. In fact, for me, I've got, I have a lot of tenacity perhaps. And, I persevered through that. And I found I had a couple of attempts, and they just weren't good. They didn't feel right. In fact, I wrote half of one book that was going to be some sort of memoir, and it just wasn't working for me. And I got some really great advice, and I'm going to give you that advice right now. And all of you out there can use this, and you'll come back to me and tell me, wow, and you're about to hear this. Write the last chapter first. As if you've written the book, sit down. Don't worry about the beginning of the book, because that's what's derailing you. We tend to be our own worst enemies by placing barriers in front of ourselves all the time that stop us from achieving our end goals. So the convention might mean always the convention that you've been taught since you were a kid is start at the beginning. Okay, I want you to take all that stuff, put it in a box, all your conventions, all the things you've ever learned. I want you to take it, I want you to toss it, because there are no rules. And what I want you to do is I want you to start with your last chapter, as if, imagine that you've written the book already, and write down the concluding chapter. Now, my concluding chapter today is nothing like it was when I wrote it in the beginning. Of course, the last chapter in the beginning. But what it did is it acted as a guide. I concluded my book, and then I wrote my book based on the conclusion that I wanted to provide. So that's my little trick. I'm writing a second book right now, and I got to tell you, I haven't done it. I'm not doing that because it's a different type of book, and I don't need to do that for this book. But for this book, for this first book, and kind of what I wanted to say, I needed to write that last chapter first, and that helped me. And maybe it'll help you. Maybe some other technique will help you as well.
Actually, if I can interject real quick, that's a successful technique in its own right for not wasting time. And that's where, as an entrepreneur, anytime you want to take on any task, it doesn't matter if it's writing a book, going to a seminar, something that's going to take away your time, which is very valuable, is to first understand and know what your outcome is, your desired outcome. What is the result you wish to get out of that task? And if you do not have a strong driving outcome, then perhaps it's best not to even take the task on to begin with. In the case of writing a book, that's a great outcome right there, but it's a similar concept where you start with the end in mind, and that just gets you moving toward that goal. You're so spot on, and I appreciate you giving that very valuable advice to everyone writing a book.
Brian, there's a risk. There's always a risk. Whenever you put yourself out there, you're always going to have a risk. Nothing is gained in life without taking a risk. One of the risks of having a project that you want to do, albeit let's talk about a book or anything else, is that you may never complete that book. And that is what depreciates you. So maybe start off by writing a blog or an article or something a little bit less ambitious, and then build yourself up to the book. Because with every time you bring something to the finish line, it's an accelerator, it's a positive momentum in your life, and it strengthens you. Yeah. On chapter 10, I talk about from strength to strength, and I actually talk about my experiences in business, unbelievable, awesome events that have happened in the most random of ways. Looking back, it would seem as if all this stuff was meant to happen, but looking forward, there's no possible way that I would have known that it happened. The idea is that in everything that you do, it provides you strength. And so you should choose things. And just my own little bit of opinion and advice to you is what I do to keep my strength going is I choose sometimes little projects, and I choose very large projects. The larger the project, the bigger the risk. But it's not just about doing things for myself. And here's the key. You want to pick projects where you're doing something for somebody else, for altruistic projects, because when you do things like that and you have a purpose, it is an unbelievable fulfillment within your very soul that provides you a momentum and a strength to achieve greater and greater things. So I'll leave you at that, and we can talk about the book.
Yeah, it's like we will often do more for others than we will for ourselves, and that in its own right is a driving force. If you do reframe it, it's so amazing you brought that up, because oftentimes, I coach speakers that speak on stage, and I know that every one of them, including myself, before you go on stage, that the nervousness kicks in. No matter how long you've been doing it, it happens every single time. But there's some of them that are so frightened that they can't move. They're rigid. And I say, the reason it's feeling this way is you're thinking about yourself. Now think about how you're going to impact the people in this room, and just watch that nervousness dissipate. It won't completely go away, never does, but you will definitely, take yourself out of those shackles, and so you can move forward. And so, yeah, spot on. Yeah, so the book itself, Moving Through Walls, so, it's about punching through and getting through the other side, and maybe getting through the finish line. But I'd like to hear your back of the book summary, if you wouldn't, to let us all know why we all want to pick this thing up and read it.
So, it's every day of my life. It's every day that I confront things and I move through those walls. And it doesn't matter what is in front of me, I know I can move through that wall. There's different types of people out there, and there's a type of person that lets, that confronts a wall and will just sit down and just watch that wall just grow and shadow them. And eventually they just turn around, they walk away, and nothing's happening. And then there's those who will move through that wall. And it depends on what you want and identifying what you want in life in order to do that. So why are you going to pick up this book? Because it's going to allow you to achieve your greatest version of yourself. I'm not talking about becoming a great person. I'm talking about becoming the greatest person of who you are, about what is going to give you the motivation and inspiration to take that best foot, place that best foot forward. I use my own personal story at great risk to myself, by the way, and at great discomfort, to be completely honest, because I had to be real. Look, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a philosopher, maybe I'm a bit of a philosopher, but I'm not a trained professional. I'm a businessman, I'm a hungry guy, I got mouths to feed, real basic stuff, and I care a great deal about other people as well. And if I was going to say something to you, and you were going to listen to me, I think I owe you enough to be completely honest and to tell you about the disadvantaged upbringing that I had and about where I came from. And I came from less than zero. So the idea of moving through walls is to give you tools. It's not just a story, and it's not just a self-help book, and it's not just here, do this, but why? What are you going to achieve and what you're going to do? And it comes down to 4, I'll give you this much, although you have to go and read the book. It comes down to 4 foundational ideas. This is what I've come down to. I've thought about my life. I thought about what is it that I do every single day when I go out there and I move through walls. What is it that I'm doing? And I brought it down to 4 ideas. And those 4 ideas are openness, faith, future, and forgiveness. We live, especially today, in a society that is perverted by bias, discourse and thought, and I don't care what side of the spectrum that you're on, but the fact is that as soon as you intimidate anybody or any kind of thought process going on and you refuse to listen to something, you end up in some type of cognitive dissonance and you practice some type of confirmation bias. You are missing out completely. And if you want to be a successful person in life, you want to be successful in business, if you do not open yourself up to the possibilities, you will close yourself off completely. And those opportunities that come along in very brief spurts and moments, you're not going to see them. Faith, we want to control. We especially in Western society, we're grown up to say we can control everything. The truth is that you can't. You can put your best foot forward, as I was saying, and then you've got to pull back and you've got to leave it up to the universe. You got to say, I've done everything I can do, but my destiny is in front of me, and I'm going to have faith. Doesn't have to be a religious faith. It can be a religious faith. It can also be a faith in humanity. It can be a faith in yourself. But the idea is that don't be so hard on yourself. You put your best foot forward and let things fall into place. And I talk all about faith. Future. I'm terribly, terribly concerned today about what I see with the drug epidemic and the opioid crisis and how beautiful, beautiful young people are unknowingly taking their lives. And that's not just what it's about, but the point is that there seems to be a crisis in identifying and be able to visualize your future every single day. I visualize my future. I sit down with people. I say, what do you want to be in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? And people stall. They cannot answer the question, and that scares the hell out of me. When people would ask me what kind of house, when I would tell people what kind of house I wanted, I would tell them what kind of staircase, how many bedrooms it would have, what color the house would be, what the floors are. I saw everything in 6 degrees of freedom, 360 degrees before I went into the virtual reality business. I saw the complete vision of what I wanted to be. When I was a little kid, screaming at God for the life that I had and what I was introduced to, I saw a vision of what I wanted to have my future turn out to be, and I never stopped hungering after that visual. Visualize your future. Know what the goal is. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Have faith in it. Just establish what you want. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Make sure you get your future mind and keep your eye on the ball and leave your ego at the door. Last, forgiveness. We all have grievances. There's personal injustices to all of us. If you internalize that, it's like taking 1,000 tiny weights and hucking them around with you wherever you go and putting them in bed with you at night, bringing them out in the morning. Make yourself a hero story. Turn your grievances into hero stories, because grievances have a date stamp on them, but everyone loves to hear a hero story. And you need to learn how to forgive. And I talk about that in my book. And believe me, I know all about what it means to feel angry and to feel the injustice and the pain. More importantly are the people who are heroes in my life. And I talk a lot about survivors of genocide, specifically the Holocaust. And how do these people like Eva Eger, or how does my mentor, who I've dedicated the book to, Elias Rubinovich, who was a Holocaust survivor, how do these people live on with their lives after such great losses? Look, it could be a minor thing or it could be a major thing. You got to learn how to forgive. I talk about it. I give you the exact tools of how to forgive. And when you allow yourself to forgive, wow, it unleashes that creative potential. It unleashes everything inside of you. And by the way, I'll give you this. Forgiveness is not about forgiving somebody. Forgiveness is about allowing yourself to forgive, and allowing yourself to forgive comes from learning how to love yourself.
Nice twist on the word forgiveness, because that entire time, there are people that I still need to forgive in my head. They don't even know that I have the grievance.
A lot of things. It's like I talk about a parking lot that's always full. So get rid of that stuff and make sure you can park your thoughts, and good luck with that. The book is really written. It's a passion. It's a very easy to read book, and I love hearing from people who've read the book, and I like to hear what they have to say about it. And it's I mean, I know I've read it, I've written it, so I'm a little biased to it, but I will tell you that one thing I will tell you is that it was one of the most therapeutic experiences for me to sit there. And for anybody out there that's thinking about writing a book, it forced me to become very mindful in the present, to be able to dig down deep into the things that I was thinking about and to bring them up and give them life. And that is in itself, even if no one read my book, thankfully I think there are a few who have, but even if no one read it, that in itself was a very self-therapeutic opportunity. So I can tell you that people have talked to me about the impact this book has had on them, and I can almost guarantee you that wherever you are today and wherever it is that you desire to get to tomorrow, that this is the type of book that's going to give you that path, that roadmap, that opportunity to get there. But it comes from you. It's got to come from you. You can't be a passive bystander in life. You got to make it happen.
I love it. And there's actually a great lesson in there for those interested in marketing, which should be everybody listening right now because we're all entrepreneurs. And one of the things that you really concentrated on or focused on the beginning of this story of your book was the discomfort you went through in being transparent about yourself and your life and what you've been through. And I've found that that is another key quality of successful people, is their willingness to become transparent. And just take that as food for thought, those of you watching and listening, that it doesn't mean you have to open up your closet and bring out all your skeletons. It's nothing like that. But it is about being transparent. It's about being authentic. It's about being real. We're all human. We've all been through those ruts in our lives, some longer, some more horrific than others, but we've all had them. And the more you can be transparent, what that does is it connects you deeper with them and vice versa, because they can relate. We are all human. We've all been through it. And when they say, oh, he's not this robotic, super successful, always happy and everything's perfect person, because if they thought that, they would look at you, like you, Israel, and say, there's no way I can achieve that because my life is, compared to his, is broken. But when you're transparent and show them, look, I'm no different than you. I just took these steps. And if you follow these steps, you too can achieve the success I have. Then they go, oh, great, I'm in. Where do I get this book? And we'll talk about that definitely in a little bit. We want to give everybody access to this book and get them reading this amazing book. And the other thing you talked about was a lot of stories. That's the best part about books. It keeps it interesting. I'm reading one right now that is one of the best story-based books. I mean, story after story. I found myself so interested in it every page I turned. And I knew that there was a point behind all of them, and the stories were just, all you have to do is make the stories relatable to the point you're trying to make. As a writer, I'm just giving out little tips that work to help, keep the reader engaged, or the viewer if they're watching you speak from stage. Metaphors, stories, very powerful. I was hitting on all these things you were saying. It's like, God, this is awesome. This is amazing. All right, let's get into, so you've been doing this for quite some time, I take it, through your life. You've been through quite a few different business models, it looks like. And I can tell just by listening to you, Israel, that you're not one of those people that goes in for the quick kill to get the money and then take the bag and run. You said it in the beginning. There was a key phrase, I care a great deal about people, of the people that I'm writing this for. And you use a lot of honesty. And people that care about others don't go into anything for a quick kill. They go in for the long haul to have a sustainable, successful, not just business, but relationship with each person that you end up doing business with and become personal friends with in addition. So for you, maybe you could help people understand what is the best thing or the best approach or way that you have found to achieve long-term success and not just the quick kill mentality.
So, I think that's a very excellent point, because we, again, live in this society of sort of immediate gratification. Yeah. And there are studies that, and I talk about these studies with respect to the difference between hedonistic living and eudanistic living. And that people who live for other people tend to live longer. So it's actually a healthy thing to not be so self-consuming. It really does. I got to tell you that, it makes my wife very nervous sometimes how involved I get with people. And she's been a great balancing. Where I've messed up in life is where I haven't listened to her or my mother-in-law, the two of them, but in years ago. But the idea is that, first of all, keep your ego checked at the door. You'll bank a lot more cash, guarantee you, if you humble yourself, keep yourself humbled, understand that we all come from nothing and we're all going to nothing. Just keep that in mind, okay? So the next time you feel that heat in your chest rise, count a few seconds before you react to it, because that's your ego that's trying to rob you of success. So check that at the door. And the other thing I will tell you is always keep your eye on the ball. And that has a lot to do with confrontation and things that people do to distract you. There's a great book I once read from a great man who I met a number of years ago by the name of Peter Thomas, and he wrote a book called Don't Fight with Pigs. And the reason why you don't fight with pigs is because pigs like to get dirty. They like to roll in mud. And if you fight with a pig, you're going to get dirty too. So, and don't bark at dogs, don't fight with pigs, all that stuff. It takes a lot of discipline not to do that. think long term. Think about what I'm doing today, how that is going to affect me tomorrow. By the way, everything is about a balance. So I do things for immediate gratification to some extent as well. I like to do that, but also I try to think as long term as possible. I think having kids was actually a real turning point for me, because when you have children, you're doing things that you're actually planning, because suddenly someone else's life is more important than yours. At least that's the way it should be. So things like putting money aside for your kids and paying off their education. I got to tell you something, the best thing I did was when each child was born, I put a lump of cash into a savings account, and then I kept on contributing to it. And by the time they got to university, the university was paid for. I did not have my university paid for, and I think there's a sort of a personal story there. I had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to get through university, and so it was very painful for me. I would say kids definitely afforded me the foresight to plan long term. And so when you think about building long-term, building bridges to your future, I want you to think about one thing. You are going to be, I used to say to people when they were young, and I talk this to young people who are 15, 16 and up, I say, listen, one day you're going to be 30. And whatever happened prior to being 30, either you're going to be really happy with how you invested your time, or you're going to become regretful of having wasted it. I got to tell you, the worst possible depreciator in life is to feel regret. You want to think about that in terms of the choices you make when you come to the forks in the road that you're going to travel, and you want to imagine yourself years later into the future. Who is your future self? And ask that future self in the mirror, are you going to be regretful about the choices that you made, or are you going to feel amazingly at peace and content? And that type of thinking and that type of process, everything that I'm telling you right now, is really the secret to long-term sustainability from your own personal self, but also for the other people around you.
Fantastic. And that's the thing I love. You're very complete in your answers. You don't leave any stone unturned. And what that does is help everyone else. The thing is, there's so many times that the question would be asked and they just give you like a 1-sentence answer. And yeah, it helps kind of guide you in the right direction, but it doesn't give you any meat, anything to say, well, what do I do now? And that's one thing I notice about you, Israel. You're always giving them exactly the steps to take. And, we have limited time on this show, so we can't give every single nitnoid tidbit. So with that, I would just recommend you get his book, and we're going to talk about that very soon. But before we do, I do have one question that I love to ask every guest, Israel, before we part ways for the evening, and it's kind of it's a big one in a way that it's very I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's very pertinent to each individual. It's an individualized question. And before I do that, though, before we go on, I need to remind everyone, I promised in the onset of the show, how they can win that 5-night stay at a 5-star luxury resort. So you each, at this moment, both myself and Israel, give you permission to pull out your phone and enter by simply texting a message. So pull out your phone, keep this going in the background, and type in the phone number 661-535-1624, and then down in that little message area where you would send that message off to your pal or your coworker, type in the word PEAK, P-E-A-K, and then tap on that little triangular-like send icon on the right and let that thing fly, and you will be entered into this wonderful contest to see if you can win a 5-night stay at a 5-star luxury resort in Mexico, sponsored by PowerTexting.com. And just so you know, I'm going to tell you this right now. This is not a lure to pull you in to listen to a 4-hour timeshare pitch. Not at all. It is a legitimate trip. In fact, the founder of PowerTexting.com himself took himself and his daughter, tested the very giveaway that they are offering and passing on to you by going to this very 5-star resort in Mexico, and said it was phenomenal. Nothing, no shenanigans. It was just, they were there as if anyone else who paid full price went, and they had a phenomenal time. And so go ahead and do that right now, and then come back right now, because we have that wonderful, heavy-hitting question for Mr. Israel Ellis. And just to kind of ease the potential anxiety going through right now, really, honestly, there is no such thing as the wrong answer to this, Israel. It's very personal. In fact, the opposite is true. The only correct answer is yours. I've asked this of every past guest, expert, and to date, no two have been identical, the answers. And that's what I love about this question, because it's so unique to each individual. So, with all that wonderful buildup, are you ready for this amazing question, Israel?
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Israel Ellis, how do you define success?
I think that it's that moment that I feel content with the choices I've made, people that I've spent time with, and the actions that I've taken. And that to me is true success. When you're comfortable with yourself, and when you can allow yourself a gift of loving yourself and of forgiving yourself. Success is when you can free up your mind so that you can focus on what's really important in life and allow yourself the creativity to pursue your dreams. I'm a very lucky guy, because when I was a little kid, I started writing a journal of dreams. And at the worst, most darkest moments of my life, I would take out that journal and I would write what's going to happen in my life. And I want to tell you that using a lot of the things that I talk about in my book, Moving Through Walls, is really the tools that I've used that have achieved the dreams, more dreams than I could have ever imagined, beyond what's been written in that book. So I guess the short answer is success is when you overachieve the dreams of your youth.
I love it. And true to form, no one else has answered it that way. That's the beauty of that question. And the other part I always find intriguing, no one else either has brought up the fact that the number one reason was a certain amount of money. It's never been money-centric. And that's because successful business people understand after going through it. Because in the very beginning, let's be honest, money is very important. It's do or die. It's for your business. You must make money. So it's kind of more in the focus, in the forefront. But as an entrepreneur matures in their entrepreneur walk, that becomes less and less. It's just a vehicle by which we can use to have more time to do what we want and when we want, with whom we want. And so it becomes less and less of a priority, although it's still a priority. You must have it to grow and scale your business and serve more. But at the same time, those that I ask this question about success, it's never money-centric. It's amazing. I love that. And you are no different, my man. And so what I wanted to do is give folks two things. One is a way to connect with you. And another one, of course, is how can they grab your book? I've actually pulled up your site. And what I'll do is I'll just turn it over to you to walk them through the steps, and I'll do what I can to guide on my side as you talk them through it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
You can just go to israelellis.com. Thank you for putting up the site. And please, if you go to visit my site, please register on my site so that I can keep in touch with you. I do publish blogs at least once a month. And I really want to hear what you think of the book. So there's a place that you can put in a testimonial. Recently, we launched something called the Hero Wall. I invite you to take a look at that. I'm not going to tell you what that is about, but it's very inspirational, motivational. It's a deep, deep idea. You can also go to Amazon. If you go and order the book on my website, I will sign the book. I'll include one of these fantastic, one of these fantastic bookmarks. And you probably want to know why on the book is the unicycle. I will answer that for you when you order the book. You can also go to Amazon, amazon.com. And please, if you order the book from Amazon, please leave a review. It's a self-published book, and it's really, really important that the general public out there support self-published authors, because there's a tremendous amount that people have to say, and not everybody has the opportunity to find a literary agent or a publishing house that's going to take them on. And certainly if you want any advice about writing a book, or just, we're always looking at stuff. I'll try to do my best. We do get a lot of emails, and I love hearing from people, by the way. I will do my best. You can just email info@israelellis.com. Real simple. The website is israelellis.com or movingthroughwalls.com, and I certainly appreciate in advance the fact that I'm honored that you would read my book, and grateful for the opportunity to give you some advice to make your dreams come true.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Israel. And just in case, for those of you listening only, you can't see the screen, it's israelellis.com, and that is spelled ISRAELELLIS.com. So go to israelellis.com. You'll see a nice, beautiful cover and back of his book on that site. And definitely go there, enter your email address, click on the subscribe button, and then go back to his main page and click on order the book. That's very cool that you're signing the copies of those that buy it through your site. Highly recommend that folks all do that, because there's nothing like that personal touch from the author themselves. And now that they've seen you and heard you and know what you're about, that makes it even more, compelling to do just that. So appreciate you, my man. I appreciate you spending a good hour here from good old Toronto, Canada, up in the Great White North. Not white, I hope, right now, but
great weather up there.
Good. So it's been awesome. I get the most out of this because I get to interview so many wonderful people like you, and I'm so pleased and honored to be able to share you to my audience and to yours as well. Your wisdom, your life experience. Thank you for sharing everything. It's been, I have writer's cramp. I had to go to a back of a page. I kept writing notes nonstop. Even though you're on camera, I'm still hard at work, and it's not work for me. This is joy. This is fun. Appreciate you. Thank you for bringing such immense value. And that is it for this edition of the Mind Body Business Show. We will see you again on the next edition coming up in 1 week from now. On behalf of Israel Ellis, my new best friend, this is Brian Kelly saying good night for now. So long, everybody, and be blessed.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching and listening. This has been the Mind Body Business Show with Brian Kelly.